Everybody please find your seats. We're about to get started. Hello everybody, I'm Midshipman Second Class Kyle Beasley, and I have the privilege of introducing the International Perspectives panel today. I'm really excited for y'all to hear these inspiring stories. There's going to be 4 bios, so please just save your applause to the end, and then we can warmly welcome them at that time. The first panelist is Hafiza Rabinesh. Hafiza Rabinesh is currently a student at Houston Community College, where she's in the process of getting to medical school to become a gynecologist. A native of Herat, Afghanistan, Hafiza knew from an early age that she wanted to be a doctor. A standout in her studies, she was chosen at the age of 14 to lead public health campaigns to vaccinate women and children. She learned how to administer vaccinations, but more importantly, how to gain the trust of women and children who had not been exposed to Western medicine. Additionally, seeing her mother without access to health care that she needed amplified her commitment to create equitable access for women across the country. In Afghanistan, Hafiza worked for U.S. non-governmental organizations teaching young Afghans to read and learn about public health. In 2018, Hafiza resettled in Houston after leaving Afghanistan on an SIV visa with her husband and children. She worked diligently to improve her English and regularly volunteers in her community, helping translate for newcomers. She also worked with Connect Community, using her sewing skills to make cloth face masks for Houston's frontline workers during the early days of the COVID pandemic. With the evacuation of the U.S. military from Afghanistan, she's worked tirelessly to get her brother and her family out of Kabul. She is still hopeful that she will help get them to the United States. She's been interviewed by multiple media outlets and documentarians wanting to learn about her efforts to help fellow Afghans. Mr. Radmanesh, thank you so much for traveling here today and for your willingness to share your story. 1 second, we're going to introduce everybody at the beginning, sorry. Okay, the second panelist is Kosai Hussein. Mr. Hussein is an education advocate, student, and motivational speaker. In 2006, Mr. Hussein was the victim of a suicide bomb in Mosul, Iraq, where he suffered multiple injuries and lost his sight. After 62 reconstructive surgeries, Hussein was able to overcome this traumatic experience and use it to advocate on the behalf of marginalized communities, including those with disabilities. Hussein served as a patient counselor for Doctors Without Borders while recovering from medical treatment in Jordan. During his time there, Hussein organized recreational activities for patients recovering from war-related injuries. In 2012, Hussein resettled the United States and integrated himself into American society by quickly learning English. After securing the second highest GED score in the region, he earned an associate degree from Austin Community College and received the ACC Presidential Student Achievement Award. With his eye on a graduate degree, Hussein transferred to UT Austin, where he graduated in May 2021 with a dual bachelor's degree in psychology and social work. He is currently pursuing a master's degree for social work with the ultimate goal of becoming a doctor of psychology. Hussein currently serves on multiple committees and boards for the blind and those with disabilities, mentoring incoming students at Austin Community College, and provides interpretation at a local refugee resettlement agency. Mr. Hussein, I've enjoyed talking to you over the past few months, and I look forward for everyone hearing your inspirational story. The third panelist is Mr. Morris Kabuye. Morris Kabuye is a passionate business entrepreneur, a mentor, director of Work for Life Uganda, co-founder of the nonprofit Youth Consult, country coordinator of Hope Africa, founder of Sandy and Morris Real Estates, founder of Aziza ICT Solutions, and a poultry farmer. All these organizations work to empower and enhance the capacity of young people through fostering positive change by mobilizing youth consciousness, nurturing young ethical leadership, and business entrepreneurship across the country. Orphaned at a tender age, Morris was enrolled in an organization, the African Children's Choir, that supported orphans. And through this organization, he earned a computer engineering degree with the focus on creating and supporting networks. Morris, who always said, "I want to go back home and make it better there," returned to Uganda in 2009 after his internship in the United Kingdom, determined to make a difference and help the vulnerable. Therefore, alongside his mentor, Robert Beasley, Morris completed a business curriculum, Work for Life, that helped streamline his business and educate him about the business world. In 2010, he, alongside other brilliant Ugandans, rolled out this model in several parts of Uganda, Kenya, South Sudan, Zambia, and other countries, training over 11,700 people to start small businesses and impacting over 210,000 lives. Morris is known for supporting and nurturing young creative minds into responsible citizens through providing both formal and vocational training, teaching life skills, instilling ethical and moral values, identity, and building confidence from a young age. So I first met Morris 10 years ago in Uganda, and he was an absolute inspiration in his ability to be positive and be passionate no matter the circumstance. So thank you so much for making the journey all the way from Uganda today. And Mr. Andrew Barlow, our moderator. Andrew Barlow has spent his career helping leaders preserve through times of crisis with clear, compelling communication. Leaders from the military, government, politics, nonprofit, college sports, and business trust in Andrew's unique knack for connecting the facts in your head with the feeling in your heart when shaping a message. Equally, when at home preparing an admiral for a New York interview about the red flare encounter with the Chinese submarine, or telling the press about the Texas response to the devastating winter storm, he exerts a calming presence under pressure. Andrew has penned political stump speeches, gubernatorial, inaugural, and State of the State addresses, university commencement remarks, high-tech and healthcare conference keynotes, SEC Media Day commissioner commentary, and more. When leaders need to make a point, they point to Andrew. This Notre Dame graduate served as an officer in the U.S. Navy, including a Tomahawk firing wartime deployment, a megachurch associate pastor, speechwriter for Texas Governor Rick Perry, director of external affairs at the Public Utility Commission of Texas, and host of the Move People podcast. He is currently employed as a senior counselor at Legend Labs. His wife of 33 years, Trina, makes it her home in Austin. And I've known Andrew Barlow my whole life, and as good as a communicator as he is, he's an insightful thinker and an even better person. So thank you so much for coming here today.
Thank you, Kyle.
Now, would everybody please join me in welcoming this amazing panel.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us. And I want to start by commending you all for being here. Now, obviously, a significant number of the people in attendance here are enrolled at the Naval Academy and are on a path of leadership. And it's important that you do the work of leadership. And so much of what goes on in leadership has to do with the head and has to do with the heart. And so the time that you're spending here today in the company of other leaders, and also in the company of leaders from other schools, other programs, is very important. Because as leaders in this generation, you have before you the opportunity to do great things, but in the process of doing great things, of potentially encountering opportunities to be resilient. Now, I believe that part of the critical reason for this particular panel is the notion of contextualizing resilience. Now, by and large, I would say that most of the people in this room were born and raised in the States. Not everyone. But if you were born and raised in the United States, you have had the privilege of living in the most prosperous nation in history. And so, because of our nation's affluence, many times we are insulated from some of the trials that come into the lives of people in other parts of the world. And so our goal today is to really kind of broaden your perspective on the realities of life, no matter where they are. And as you lead, to ensure that you have in your heart an idea of the people whom you serve. Obviously, as an officer in the Navy, you'll be serving the people of the United States. But when you go into a forward operating theater and you're engaging with the civilian populace, you have an opportunity, you need to see the faces and know the lives of the people that you're there to protect. Because whether you're a nurse in a hospital who runs the risk of her patients becoming just a collection of symptoms, or if you are an officer in a forward deployed situation and you run the risk of seeing the people that you are helping as others, it's so important to remember the humanity that's at play and the humanity that is at the root of everything that we do. Because the world and humanity needs defenders. The world and humanity needs those people who will stand between trouble and them. And so what we want to do today is just take a moment to, again, contextualize the notion of resilience and how incredibly personal it is. We heard the stories from Mr. Redmond this morning, who endured incredible trauma and trial. And it was interesting that his trial and trauma, certainly we thought it was going to be all about his significant gunshot wound, but he actually told us that there was trial and trouble in his life before that. And so today what we want to do is just share these stories so you can have a broader understanding of the realities of life as we know it. And so to start off with, I'm going to invite Kosai Hussein, our friend from Iraq, who now is a proud Texan. And again, I bring greetings from Texas. But we'd like to ask Qusay to kick off our time, and you're going to have an opportunity to hear each of their stories, personal stories, a little more in depth. And then we'll follow that by a discussion time, and then we'll open it up to questions. So, Qusay, if you would, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I'm going to stand up. Thank you so much to all of you. So before I start, I would like to thank Kyle and Connor for inviting me here, also helping me around the campus. As you see, many stairs. So no need to go to the gym. You do your exercise here. First of all, I want to ask you a question before I start. So how many of you lost friends or member of your family, and like raise your hand or stand up? If you can't stand up, just raise your hand. Or you get through suffering. You suffered from something, and you was not able to get through it. Also, stand up or raise your hand if you can. Or you saw somebody suffering in front of you, and then you were not able to help. Same thing. Raise your hand or stand up. There were many. So as you see, adversity does not discriminate. You can see. So yeah. So as you see, all of us, we go through difficulty, but in the end, with our trying, we come over it. I will tell you, 2006, on August 3rd, I was playing a volleyball match with other boys, and suddenly a car drove to the stadium and he blew himself. He killed 16 people, and 56 got injured. In my village, kind of like village, like 60 miles, 65 miles from Mosul. So in my village, a small clinic, like basically 2 rooms and 1 doctor and 3 or 4 nurses. But with those people who got injured and then the death people, the clinic got full. So they put me to the clinic, and the doctor looked on me and he said to my dad, "Go ahead, take care of your other kids. Qusay, half an hour, he will die." So, because I have 2 brothers who injured with me as well. So they put me where the dead people is. And they forgot about me. They forgot me because my dad went to help my other brothers because they are injured, not severe as mine. So after a few hours, the traditional in Iraq to take the body and wash it and take it to the cemetery. When my dad came to take me home, I heard his voice. And I said, "Dad, don't leave me, I will die." And he started shouting, he said, "Oh my God, my son is still alive." So he put me in a car, but he could not drive because, 3 of his sons injured, and he don't know they will made it or not. So he asked one of the neighbor if he could drive the car. So our neighbor drove the car, and the way we met American soldiers. When they saw my injuries, they helped me to their base for treatment. When I got to the base, I went in a coma for 12 days. I don't know where I was. And I woke up, and I just saw my body filled of tubes. And then I start cut them off. And then I just hear the machine start beeping, beep, beep, beep. And I don't know what they did to me, and they just turned my head left or right, and I slept. Yeah, I don't know, they gave me some drug or something, I don't know. So I woke up, I don't know, after 2 days they told me, and I found my hand got tied to the bed. I said, "Oh my God, I'm injured, I'm in trouble again." So I told them I need water. And then I heard the sounds of the boat come toward my bed. And then the interpreter, she said, "We could not give you water." I said, "Why? But I'm thirsty." She said, "Well, let me ask." So she spoke in English. At that time, I don't know where I am. I just asked for water, first thing. And the doctor told her, "No, we could not give him any water because his stomach filled with blood. If we give him water, he will die." So they just, with cotton, did it on my lip, the water. So They told me, what happened to you? And I told them, I remember maybe it's like electricity shocks. And then she said, she interpreted, she said, no. In your file is explosion. But before that, she asked me for my name, the interpreter. She said, what's your name? I said, my name is Qusay. And she said, oh, thank God. I say, well, thank God for everything, but why when you heard my name, you say thank God? And she said, well, guess what? One hair, you will lose your brain. Because the shrapnel hit me here, dropped all my right cheek, my nose, and like missed the brain with one hair. So, and when she told me electricity, and she said, no, it's explosion, and oh my God, like everything, the memory came, and how I saw the driver, how he drove to the stadium, and how he blew himself. I said, oh my God, where is my brothers? Because I saw them, they are injured. And I started crying because I saw my friends, people dying in the stadium, and I started crying. She said, just calm down. All of them, they are doing well. Just calm down. So I told her, can you open my eyes? And then the doctor says, sorry, we could not open your eyes today. And I think they gave me some medicine, calm me down again. And then the issue is, they want to connect with my family. And my family already did the funeral for me, and then they got the death certificate. Because 12 days they didn't hear nothing. And then they thought American soldier took me, and then I died, and then they threw me somewhere in the mountains or somewhere. And when the interpreters tried to reach to my family, because 2006, 2007 was like the most difficult time for Iraqi people, because Qaeda there take hostage people and to take money. So my dad thought like somebody to take advantage of him. He didn't believe it. They started I'm still alive. So when they called my dad, my dad told them, you are a liar. My son is already gone. And the interpreter, they come back to me. He said, what we can do? I said, well, I don't know. Let's call my uncle. So they called my uncle, and then my uncle listened to them. And then he convinced my dad, just let him listen to the interpreter. So when they called my dad, he said, okay, I have something in Qusay. If you told me, yes, he's my son. And he said, what? And he said, what you can see in his right arm. So here, I have tattoo written in my name. And he said, we could see his name. And he said, yes, this is my son. So the issue is not here. The issue when my brother came to the base to take me home. He came walk next to my bed, and he looked on me, and he didn't recognize me because every tube's in my face, and my face swelling, and and he stand exactly next to my bed and say, oh my God, if this person die, it's better for him, and instead alive. And then he walked, and I didn't know that he talked about me. So he asked the interpreter, he said, do you know what is Kosai Hussein? And I heard his voice, I said, oh, Ali, I'm here. And he passed out until the nurses threw water on his face to wake up. So that was like how severe I was injured. So it didn't stop here. I went to go back to the base, and I stayed there 3 months. And then after 3 months, they say we could not operate on you until you need 6 months to just get the body get rested, and then we could do again. But after 6 months, my dad could not take me back to the base because it was Qaeda controlled the street, and it was dangerous. So my family don't know what to do with me. So the only thing, just sitting home. I don't want to see anyone. The only, in a night, I woke up. In a day, I don't want to leave my room. Just stay in my room. And because, no nose. And the cheek, they built it, but I got infected. And then I drink a lot of medicine, but it's not stopping the pain. Until in 2009, when I was listening to the TV, and I heard commercials about Doctor Without Borders. And I connect with them, and I went to Jordan. And there I started doing my surgeries and started helping other patients as well. I became patient counselor. And in 2012, I came to the US. When I came to the US, I don't know anything there. I don't speak the language, just hi, how are you? Nothing else. They put me in a room for 21 days. I could not see anyone, just the caseworker come, bring me food and leave. And, but I felt like more depressed. I need human interaction. But I don't know what to do. Not speaking the language. I don't have any family, no relatives, no anybody. So one time I stopped a friend of the caseworker and I told him, I need interpreter. So after that, he called and he said, what do you need? I say, I need to go out and I need to see more, I need to see people. And then he said, I promise after my work, I will come take you. So he to come take me to shopping area. And I thought this is heaven. This is, I could hear people talking. So the life opened for me again. But this is small thing. I'm telling you the reason because I told you short of my story because of the time. But what the point of my story to all of you, do not give up from small things. Do not give from what happened to you. You are resilient. You are able to do whatever you want to do. Don't say, I can't. Say not yet. Because if you say, I can't, kind of you put yourself in a room and you throw the key from the window, nobody can find it for you. But if you say not yet, you have the key with you in a room, but you didn't find it yet to open the door to see the world. So you are capable to do what you want to do. And so that's what I did. I didn't say I can't. I say not yet. And then when I came to the US. So I learned my English, and I get my GED, and I got my associate, and right now I'm at UT studying for my clinical master in social work. So if I said to myself, just said, this has happened to me, why God chose me, why is me, I'm not here in front of you to speak to you. But that idea, it didn't come to my head. Because since I will let it to come to my head, I will never go out. So I always try to block it and tell it, no. I'm stronger than the small idea to come to my head. So here I come to share my story to you because you are the future. And you will see maybe many things in your future. And hopefully everything will be good and nice. But you never know. Just to tell you that, don't give up. And be resilient and be helpful for others. If you don't be helpful for others, you could not be helpful for yourself. Be who you are, and whatever happened to you, you are able to come over it. And thank you again for giving me the time, and you've been here to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Qusay. So now we'd like to invite Hafizah to share her story as well.
Hello all. I'm really grateful that I am here right now. I was a 6 years old girl. The Taliban took my opportunity and I was not able to attend to the school. That time was very hard for me to see other children. They are going to school, but I was not able to attend to a school. I started elementary school at home with homeschooling with non-educated parents. Just I had my encouragement from my parents, especially my fathers, that supported me to start elementary school at home. That was very hard, but I did. In 2003, I started my elementary school at a school. I finished my elementary school, and then again I had a problem, and I was not able to attend to to high school because of lack of female teachers. That time, Taliban were not in Afghanistan, but because of the cultural problem, males were not allowed to teach females. And I had to stay home and figure out what should I do. That was again another problem, and I just had my parents that they tried to encourage me, you can, if you want, you can. That time, my mayor of the village asked my father, your daughter is very smart. She can teach other females and other girls in a school. And then I start teaching in elementary school and then middle school. I taught math, basic computer, typing, and beauty. And during this time, again, I could able to start my high school by homeschooling, by asking help from other people. Actually, when I started to study high school, first of all, during the night, I just look all the subject, and then when I find some problem, I just took a note and ask my brothers or uncle, please ask your teacher this answer. By the way, I finished my high school with many problems. When I finished my high school, I had a child, and I was married. After that, again, I couldn't attend to college because of the cultural problem, and a woman with a child wasn't allowed to go to the college. Again, I start working with the American non-government organization. And also my husband was part of army in Afghanistan. He worked with the US military. My husband wasn't able to work in 2014 because the Taliban recognized him, and he wasn't able to go out. Again, I had the opportunity to work because I was able to cover my face, and nobody could recognize me. But after a while, I couldn't continue. My husband applied for a SIV visa, and it took about 3 years. And then we came here. When I came here, I found myself as a child, dependable. I didn't understand anything. Everything was new for me, and I had 2 children. I had to support them, and I was a woman that I start everything in age 6 years old. I didn't want to give up, but in our culture, for a woman aged 20 and 25 years old, is not a time to start learning. They believe for a woman it's not necessary to start learning or something. She just can take care of the children and the house. But actually, I had some American volunteer. All the time, we had some conversation, and they tried with many methods to communicate with me. And then they encouraged me, I can start. By their encouragement, I start ESL classes in 2019, and I finished ESL classes past December. And right now, I'm a pre-med student in Houston Community College. The point that I learned about myself that I should never give up, and my personal opinion of the life is that don't listen to negative point. Life is life. Everybody has different idea, different problem, but you should choose about your future. If you want, you can. Human is incredible, powerful in the world. If you want, you can reach anything that you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Hafizah. And now we'd like to hear the story of my good friend Morris Kabuye.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very humbled to be here. Thank you very much to the organizing team. I am Morris Kabuye. I come from Uganda, East Africa, right in the horn of Africa, bordering Kenya, Tanzania, South Sudan, Rwanda. For those of you that may not know, General Museveni, as our president, who's been president for 36 years, pretty much since I was born. How many of us here have a dream? When you have a dream, well, I'm glad we are in the right place, because I was born in this third world country. This is the 21st century, but my country is still a third world country. Is there anybody that can describe, by just a shout of an answer, a third world country? What sort of problems are there? Anybody? Insecurity. Food and security. Corruption, yes. Violence. Lack of opportunities. Healthcare. Education. Clean water. So you actually are reading my list. Just what you've just said has helped me cover the first part of my list. So I will skip that one, because you already know it. But how many of us have actually experienced what you've just said? Okay. There are a few people. It gets very complicated. I was born in 1983, in the middle of a civil war, to a family of 14 children. So my dad was killed in the war. I'm the last born when I was 2 months old. So my mom remained with the 14 of us. Unfortunately, 4 of them died in the war. And we remained 10, 3 boys and 7 girls. She was a strong woman. She ran with all of us, because after our dad was killed, our house was burnt down. So I don't even have an idea of how my dad looked like. The war ended in 1986, but that was the war, because then the effects began. So for us, education as a family was not an option. But my mom kept telling us, if education is not an option, well, hopelessness is not an option. She focused on feeding us. She focused on sheltering us. Those were the 2 things. Countless times we went hungry. Countless times we didn't have clothes. I have a joke, because I enjoy working with the young people. And I tell them, when I put on any pair of shoe, I know you're looking at my shoes right now. When I put on any pair of shoe, for me, it's not a shoe. It is something I never had. I appreciate every bit of it. Because she didn't have, and we didn't have access to education, she struggled and found an organization that was helping orphans. She got me into the African Children's Choir. So when I say the African Children's Choir, most people say, oh, so you can sing. Well, if you tickle me, not many people get to do that. I can sing. But through the organization, I was given an education. I toured. I came to the US when I was like 12, a long time ago. I toured Europe and some parts of Asia. That was partly to raise school fees for me and the many children back home. That education, and this is where you get to clap for yourselves. That education was partly given by the people of America. I thought you'd clap. Because the people of America sponsored so many children. The people in Europe sponsored so many children. We got an education. I've always had a statement from when I was young in the choir, and we used to say this, that I would like to go back home and make it better there. I want you to think about your home. I want you to think about your community. I want you to think about your neighbors. English is a second language to me, but I know that there's something called charity begins at home. There are people around you that do need you as well. I went through a lot of stuff. I can swim a little bit, and I know many people here can swim. But for us, water was 2 kilometers away. You walk 2 kilometers and carry 20 liters of water on your head, and you walk back, and you do that 3 times a day. And so somebody asked me a while back alongside another person, can you guys swim? Like, well, you walk 2 kilometers there and 2 kilometers back and pour that water in a basin and sit in it. That's why I can swim. You know, it was difficult. So that's these are things that seem very maybe uncommon, but that's because you can turn the tap. The moment you can't, you see the reality of it. I went back home after graduating. I'm a computer networker professionally, and all I used to do is sit behind the server and type away. For those of you that do networks, if any, I discovered it was boring. I wanted to work with people. I got an opportunity to meet a gentleman, Robert Beasley, in South Africa. And he asked me, when you go back home, what do you want to do? You insist you want to go back home. I said, yes, I want to. And then do what? I said, and do business so that I can empower the people back home. He said, do you know how to do business? I said, no, I will learn. I had a dream to go back home and make it better there. So I did. And 2 years later, again, him and a few other, this gentleman as well, come up with a program that teaches how to do business, and they hand it to me. I was the first person to study it. I did. And I realized, because we don't have work in our country, it was up to us, the young generation, to create these opportunities. But that's because I had a dream. And the resilience that I developed along the way. I am a believer in God, and I draw my strength and my faith in the fact that He helped me out. I have 3 pillars in my life. My first pillar being my mother, my late mother, who told me that the house we don't have, the clothes you're missing, and everything, that's her generation. But you, your generation, you've got to work hard and make things better. This is all I could offer in my generation. But you have the opportunity to make it better. So I'm actually passing the same to you. Your parents had their generation. You have your generation. And you have the opportunity to make things better. So I decided that I will create work into the IT world, where I started an IT business, into the real estate that's running, into the poultry, and the organization that I help run, where many people are being impacted. We're helping change and create impact to people who would have, in other words, not made $1 a day, but when they have big families, that now are able to make $20, $30, $40, even $50 a day by teaching them the smallest of how to start a business. It can be a market store. It can be a small retail business. The simplest, it's not complicated. But that's because I look back and I see how many people have helped me. How many people have held my hand. How many people have stood with me. So my mother and a God-centered community. This is a community, and this is what I want to tell you. You are a community. You have an opportunity to hold somebody's hand. Relationships are what should come and should take you through the adversities that you encounter. If you are challenged and you stand alone, you will sink. How many of us here have a mentor? Thank you. These are people who will carry us through. But you know what we have as a challenge is we don't want to be accountable. So if you're going to go through this, you have got to be accountable. You have got to be vulnerable to these people so that they hold you accountable. I know that's tough. Most people don't want to open up. I work with young people as well, and I know it. But that's part of the dream. If you want to achieve, you've got to be vulnerable to them. You've got to open up. You have got to learn to take responsibility for your actions. As leaders, you have got to realize where you have messed up and decide to own up. Because if you don't, nobody will. You have got to set values. Do we have values? Do you have your own values that you stand by? That when somebody does something and comes too close to making you violate your values, you stand up and say, no, I believe this. So I love honesty. I love integrity. I love trust. But trust is earned. It is earned. But then I love irrespective, because that's what I have been given. And I know what it means to be loved by people who are not your family members. So we've constructed wells to supply water, because that's now a change that we see needs to happen, where a community is able to draw water and not have to walk 2 miles or kilometers. These are things that you're able to do. These are things that you're able to look out for. The ball is in your hands as young leaders to not just look at who you are, how am I going to make it, which car will I drive, which house will I live in, and be able to say, who around me can I help? Whose hand can I hold? How far can I push this person? Because when you give, when you open yourself up to people like that, you will see how many people will come around you as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Morris. So I want to start our conversation with a reflection on the fact that the scientific definition of resilience is the ability of, say, an object to undergo stress or compression and return to its original state, right? Think of a rubber ball. If you take a rubber ball and you compress it, you might flatten it, make it look like a lima bean, but when you let go of it, it returns to its original shape, right? So within that construct, resilience has a very clear meaning. But I would argue, and I think that you would agree, that human resilience, actually, you never return to your original state, right? That we carry the scars in our hearts, on our bodies, wherever, of the things that we've endured, and they change us, but that as we do exert perseverance and are resilient, that those changes actually make us stronger, make us better. So I wanted to start, Qusay, if you would talk a little bit about that in your life, about the whole notion of resilience, and maybe how you have been changed by your experience, and in what ways, even through loss, have you found new strengths and found the power to persevere?
Yes. Thank you for this question. Do you hear me? Okay. So, yeah. So I think you and me, we talked about it early morning. But like, for example, if you have device, let's say any device, let's say your cell phone in your hand right now. So this cell phone, you opened it, and you could add program to it and make it faster, or you could add program to it and make it trash. So you choose what you want to put in your cell phone. So the accident, the one happened to me, I could make it like, oh, sorry, or I could be who I am. I could be distribute to the community. I could help my friends. I could help people on the way. So the resilient, I chose to be putting good software for my phone, to be fast, to be useful for others, instead being burden on others. So this is, I think, how I would find the definition of resilience.
So what you're saying then is the idea that when we go through trials and struggles and pain, to actually see that in a sense that we're essentially upgrading our software. We're kind of going from operating system 2.0 to 2.1, and that we have an opportunity to kind of implement that in our lives and become better, faster, stronger, but in ways that we weren't previously as a result.
Correct. That's correct, yes.
Okay. So Hafizah, for you, when you think about the trials that you've endured, the struggles that you growing up in Afghanistan, being in a place where perhaps women weren't valued or given the same freedoms and rights that men had, but knowing that in your heart that you had the desire to persevere, that you had you had indicators from outside that your intellect was significant, that you were very smart, you had all the talent that you needed to succeed, but you had to persevere past obstacles within your culture. How did you get through those, and what strengths did you discover in yourself as a result?
I think having hope and having a plan is the most important things in their life. If people doesn't have plan for themselves, they never can try because they don't have any reason for struggling. But the reason that I overcome now is that I had plan, I worked for my plan, still I'm fighting for my plan. And as I mentioned before, in our culture, 20 or 20 years old is too late to learning. But right now I'm 31 years old, and right now I think I'm a new baby. I'm refreshed. It doesn't matter my hair, what color has it, but I found my mind younger than before, younger than 5 years ago.
So Morris, in your situation, with the things through which you've had to persevere, I mean, great poverty as a child, and again, days, times when you didn't know where your next meal was coming from, again, not knowing how you would stay warm one day or be cool off in the Ugandan heat. What did you find that going through that, how did that change you? If you compare your life to someone who grew up in a fairly mundane suburban American existence, whose maybe their biggest problem was, the line at Starbucks was too long. Having gone through what you went through, how do you feel what strengths emerged in you?
One of the biggest things for me was, or is up to now, that my perspective on what matters in life changed. My perspective on what mattered most in life changed. From trying to enrich myself to being able to reach out in the community and transform those other people that don't have the opportunities like I was in the beginning. Now we are creating those opportunities with them and allowing them to achieve as well. I think that's what changed, is I see differently. Yes.
So one of the things I think that you hold in common is, with each of you having gone through great trials in your life, that one of the things that you have in common, even though you have different countries of origin and so forth, you all three are committed to serving others. So Qusay, I would start with you to ask, what is it that compels you to serve others? Is it the trials that you endured? Is it the help you received? I mean, what is it in your life that compels you to, again, seek the betterment of others than necessarily enrichment of yourself?
Yeah, Andrew, thank you so much for this question. Actually, the reason why I wanted to help others, because when I got my accident, no one helped me beside my mom and dad. And no organization, no government, no one open their hands. They say, here, my hand, hold me, I will lift you up. No one. Just thank God for my mom and dad who stayed next to me. And in Iraq, as most of you know, the electricity looks like traffic light. On and off all the time. We could not turn the radio or TV, so my dad just told me stories based on what he learned in the past and what good stories. So my dad was staying with me the night to read, told me stories so I could be happy and not left alone. So that's what make me know there are many people suffering like Qusay who need help, who need somebody to put their hands to reach them out and tell them, oh, I'm here, I will stand next to you. So that's what make me, I want to help others. And I don't want to see anyone suffer or anyone go to what I went through, because it's not easy.
Thank you. And do you have a reflection on the same idea in terms of what compels you? Because right now you're seeking education to become a doctor. which you help people. So Hafizah, what compels you to pursue that?
As Mr. Hussein said, yes, parents. Parents were the only people who support me with the encouragement, with saying, don't give up, you can do it. The impossible is possible when you believe yourself. And I think it doesn't matter what age a person has, always we need our parents. And still, I have two kids, 2 boys. And if I find something hard and difficult for myself, I reach out to my parents. I just want to listen again. They say, you can. And again, like a phone, you put it on the electricity, I'm powerful, and I can start again. Yeah.
And Morris, in your own life, I mean, if you could talk a little bit about maybe that turning point moment, because again, you're an educated man, a man of business, with IT services, and you built a business, all these different things. But was there a turning point moment when you realized that you wanted to be more kind of other directed in terms of your efforts?
Yes, my 3 pillars. So the first being my mother. After the war, all around up to around 1993, like I mentioned, we were 10. And that's all I knew, that we were 10. But our house at some point had 15. And I asked, who are these other people? She said, well, this girl got lost in the war, and I took her on. This one got lost in the war. And this one we found when she was walking, she does not know where her parents are. So I had another 3 or 4 people in our family that they were not blood siblings, but my mom had just taken them on. Before my mom passed, I realized that every parent, and let me look you all in your eyes and just state this, because I have, in a way, seen this in the Western countries. There's a tendency of forgetting your parents. I went and understood that every parent has a blessing to give. However hard it might sound, however good or bad they might have been, I went to my mom, I knelt down, she was sitting on a mat in a dirt-floored house. And I said, I need your blessing. She put her hands on me, she didn't say much, but I knew I'd gotten a blessing. I encourage you, even if you've left home or haven't, take a moment and go home. Your parents hold a blessing. So that's one. The second one was that I was helped throughout by people that never knew me. And I would love to continue doing that. I call it passing on the baton and creating a ripple effect. I don't know where that ripple will end. But guess what? I have the opportunity to start it. The other one, the third one, is that my faith, like I mentioned, I believe in Christ. And where there is no hope, I've been able to kneel down and pray and say, I don't know the way. I don't have my parents to look back and ask. I don't have relatives to do ABCD. So then I draw my strength in Christ. Those are the 3 pillars.
Very good. Thank you. Earlier when we were talking over lunch, you made reference, I think, Qusay, to what Mr. Redmond had said about that very, very low point in his life when he was on the verge of making basically a horrible life-ending decision. And it was the glimpse of the photo of his of his wife and children that was the thing that stopped him from quitting. And so when you think in your own life of times when it was as bad as it got and the desire to quit was as attractive as it got, what has been the thing, the one thing that helped you to recover and continue your efforts to strive and persevere? Qusay, can we start with you?
Yes. So that moment was in Jordan, what you're describing. So I went to Doctor Without Borders, as I mentioned, and I have a hope my vision to reverse. So I think my dad that time, he knows my vision could not reverse. Because American doctor, when he got me to the car, he took my dad to the side with interpreter and he spoke to them, but I don't know what he said to him. So we got to Jordan, and then the doctor was reading the report. And that time I said, like, I don't speak English. And I said, doctor, can you refer me to ophthalmologist doctor? And he said, sorry, Qusay, your eyes, it could not be reversed, the vision. That moment, I wanted the ground like open and I will go down because I don't want to live anymore. I went to the hotel and I want to admit suicide. I want to kill myself. But my dad, he got like, he crying too. And because he got tired, he went down the stairs like he smoked cigar. And for me, I cleaned my body and I started praying. That moment, I don't know what happened to me. I felt like piece of ice come to my heart and calm me down. And all the pain, I don't know where it went. And when my dad came back to the room, he saw me I'm different. And I told him, Dad, I'm hungry, I need to eat. Because that day, whole day, I didn't eat because just whole day, just crying. Because the doctor told me your vision is not reversed. So I think the prayer, whatever religion you believe, whatever you think, do it. It will help. It will help you to come over difficulties.
Hafizah, in your life, have there been times when you hit the wall? You reached a point of being convinced there was no path forward. What did you find in that moment that allowed you to persevere and go forward? Can you recall a time like that?
I think, having hope and plan, both of them. And the people who you like and you know they like you. I believe on three things. And it's allowed me to fight more. And right now, I don't think about the difficulties. For example, if I want to buy a cup of coffee, for example, it is $5. But I have $2. I think about $50. I have to try to catch $50. But this means I don't think about these difficulties. Always I'm ready for more diversity. And this allows me to be calm down when I find difficulties in my life. And it's allowed me to help other people when I can see they have the same problem or the same situation. And I know the solution and I can help. And I never stand that they call me. I will go and I will ask for that I can help.
So if it's okay, I want to stay with you for just a moment. And you have talked about, growing up in a country, again, where women were devalued, and that there were penalties, for the empowerment of women. There were penalties for the education of women. Your father actually took some risks for you. And as a father, my heart has been so warmed to know that his love for you was such that he would persevere. Could you talk just a little bit about his influence in your life and the risks that he took to help you persevere? Yeah, I talk a lot. I apologize. But you've given some wonderful insights about your father and living in a culture where he took risks by lifting you up. Can you talk about the risks that he took to help you advance and to persevere in your life?
First of all, as I said, I start working during none of the female weren't allowed to work. And my father was the first person allowed his daughter to work. And all the people, even our uncles, and they say, "Hey, you're crazy. What are you doing? Why you allowed your baby girl to start working with like these people? They cannot know about the valuation of this purpose." But my father, that was hard for my father. I could understand, but my father, as I am, he doesn't want to listen to negative points. Always he wants to go through what he wants. And until now, when I came here, all the people said, "Hey, don't allow your daughter to go to the United States because you're Muslim, and if your daughter go through the United States, maybe she changed." And my father said no. I'm the only daughter in my family. I have 3 brothers, but my father allowed.
That's such an important investment that he made in you. And again, doing it in a context where the penalties could have even gone as high as death was a remarkable thing that he would do to invest in you. And I think it's amazing to think the legacy that you can carry forward as you continue to study and to work to help others, I think is a very inspiring thing. So,
Sure.
Yeah. So Morris, I wanted to talk for just a moment. You talked about persevering and helping others, and your household has recently expanded. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yes. The 3 brothers, my brother and I are were the 2 last children. So my brother passed away due to HIV and AIDS and left 6 girls. So in addition to my sisters, I have 6 nieces. You can see my soccer skills took a long time to develop, and I think I'm going to have to do a lot more dodgeball at home. So I do have another 6 girls under my care, in addition to 18 others that I had tried to give a better life since they were in grade 2. 5 of them are now at university as of this year. We had the longest, just so you know, we had the longest lockdown in the world, 2 years without education. And 2 weeks ago, we've just been released to go back to school. And so when I talk of the need around me and in my own family, the family has increased. There are others that have already been helping. And like I mentioned, after the 2 years, we have hospitals flooded with 12-year-olds who are pregnant for these 2 years that they've not been in school. So the need around me that I see pushes me to ensure that I keep impacting.
So we have a few more questions, but if anybody has questions and would like to come forward and queue up at the microphones, now would be a great time. If you have questions about their lives growing up, if you have questions about the concerns in their countries, if you have questions about what it was like when when their countries all of a sudden they turned around and there was American servicemen and women around, you're welcome to queue up at the microphones now, and we're going to keep our conversation going. But now would be a great time if you have any questions about their experiences. So. So I wanted to kind of turn our attention toward the audience and turn our attention toward kind of the generation that's represented here, and would love to kind of get your thoughts on advice and encouragement that you might give them as they look at going out in the world. So, so hold that in mind, and we'll actually go to our first question here. If you'd like to go ahead and step up to the microphone, and you can drop your mask for the sake of elocution. And if you would just identify yourself, and in addition to giving us your name, we'd love to know your hometown as part of letting people know who you are. So,
hi, my name is Midshipman Third Class Hunt. My hometown's London, but my parents live in South Africa right now, so a lot of different places. My question for the panel is, it was so evident when you spoke that you have such gratitude for life, despite all the obstacles you faced. And I wanted to know, did you ever feel angry or frustrated or cheated by their situations? And how did you overcome that to sort of reach where you are today?
who wants to go first? Qusay?
I can go first.
Go, Qusay.
You ask a beautiful question. I think the previous speaker said, I forgot his name, sorry, but he said, if you are not a human, raise your hand. We are human. We go through difficulty, and we get anger. I get frustrated. Sometimes I could not sleep in the night because I'm worried for something, or I didn't get my thing met, needs, or all of that is come to us. But when come to me personally, I said, like, it's worth it to keep thinking about it and not go over it. If I will keep, if it will help me, yes, I will think about it. But it's not why I don't leave it and start like catching my sleep, for example, or start reading, or go to the store. But no, yes, we got. Personally, I get mad, but always, I will tell you something. You will laugh at me. I have mirror in the bathroom. I always talk to myself. I say, I'm able to do it. And I will be who I am, and I want to be something. That charge me every day. So yeah, we are like, I come through difficulty, but I always kind of like analyze it. It's worth it to think about it that much or not? So that it helped me a lot to identify the issue.
Did you want to offer something more?
Yeah, can I add something? I didn't grow up with my dad. He was killed, I was 2 months old. So I've always been very angry because I've seen people with their fathers, maybe not even being able to give them anything, but they were there. And I didn't have one. I don't even know how he looks like, or he looked like. So that didn't go down well with me. But along the way, one thing I knew was I have learned to understand things I can control and not control. I cannot bring back my father. That's out of my ability. But I can, and I was able to look at, and I'm going to use this word, faithful men that I personally approached and say, you know, I don't have a father. But I would like to come to you and ask questions when I'm confused, especially when I turned into a teenager and things started happening to me. And you cannot run to your mother and say, you know, mother, there's something. Okay. But these men were there. So I took an action. I always say, for you, we can talk of resilience, but you have got to take the first step. So I took a step and approached people, these faithful men, and I said, I need to talk to somebody. They were generous. They were gracious. I speak to them up to today. I hope that's helpful.
Very much so. So I just want to note that I used the term queue up, and the person from London got in line first. I don't know if anybody noticed that. I'm a word guy, but actually I thought that was kind of cool. So I guess I'm speaking your language. As it were.
Yes, sir.
So did you have anything on that?
No, thank you.
As Mr. Hussein said, yes, we are human, and every single person, it is normal, get frustrated. or thing cannot continue. But in my personally, when I find more difficult in my life, I have an old calendar in my home. I just try to, at that moment, I just writing about my problem at that moment, and I put the day, I put the time. And that's why I use that old calendar, because I know nobody want to reach out, what is this? And I don't want to anybody see what I wrote. Because I know because human needs to release and needs to talk about what they have at that moment. But I know if I say about my problem and about my difficulty at that moment, I believe they will say, okay, stop it, give up. If you think this is very difficult, okay, leave it. But I don't want to do that. I just write for myself and close it, and then I think, how can I solve it? And then I start to fighting for that. And after a while, again, I go and I see what I wrote and what I did. That's it.
So we'll come over here for our next question.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Isabel. I'm from the Inamori Center for Ethics and Excellence at Case Western Reserve University. I know it's a mouthful. So I guess my question has to do with leadership. We've all gathered here to learn about leadership and resilience, and so that's what brings us together. As an anthropology major, I'm also very interested in the things that separate us, and I've noticed two major ones here. First, the culture of your origin is very different from ours, and secondly, the types of hardships that you've had to endure, many of which most of us here have never experienced and probably never will. Given these differences, do you ever experience difficulties trying to teach about leadership and to inspire these characteristics in others? And if so, how do you overcome that so that leadership can be a universal human experience?
Would you like to start with that, Qusay? Just in terms of the obstacles that may happen, maybe cultural obstacles, as you go out and share your message about resilience and overcoming.
Yeah, actually, you brought a beautiful point. With me, I think most than difficult about my disability. And unfortunately, a lot of people who have fixed mindset about disability. And then since they see you, they think that you are not capable because you are visually impaired, or you have wheelchair, or whatever disability you have. The kind of example they said, like they judge the book from the lid. And to show my readership to that, like if since you saw me, you judged me, how you will listen to me. So I must find a way to convince you or to show to you to prove that I am capable and I'm leader as who I am. So to be a good leader, you must first listen before you talk. Active listening. And then treat others how you want it as somebody treating you. If you want to respect others. It doesn't matter where this person comes from. The color of the person, or their religion, or where they come from. And then being leader, in my opinion, two things you should not talk to the group you want to be a leader to. Religion and politics. And you want to be like those, because those can come to you to the conflict. It doesn't matter you agree or disagree, they will take you to conflict and then you lose your leadership on it. So to be leader, like how you want to see yourself, see others, and you become amazing leader. And I could see that in you because you are here, listen to us, and you want to learn. And that you taking the steps to become leader, and that you doing it and keep doing it. Whatever opportunity come to you, take it, and don't let your procrastinate making you do not do it. You know, we have a subconscious brain. You say, oh no, don't go to the gym or don't do that. it's the latest part in our body and dangerous. Let us stop from what we want to do. No, challenge that and do it, and you will become leader.
Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about the cultural obstacles before we go to the next question? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, with culture, it becomes very difficult. But as a leader, I like to stick to fundamental questions. Why am I in this situation? How do I get out of this situation? How do I not get back into this situation? And how do I help others that might fall into this same thing? I believe those are fundamental questions for us in crisis. They go beyond barriers. And I like to focus on those. And I know there was somebody that asked the question that were from South Africa. I've done a little work in up in Mpumalanga and in Cape Town. The cultures are different. I've done some up north, South Sudan, totally different. You know, like in Kenya, totally different. But those fundamental questions still address each and every problem at the same level. So I've consistently held on to those.
Sound like you're getting on and off the X. Am I right? That's what. Very good. Qusay,
Yeah, I would like to add something just about culture. So kind of you go to the store and you find like big basket of apple. None of the apple will be perfect shape. You could see that some apple have dent, some apple like you know, around some. So the culture like that. So like you could not find a culture perfect. They treat you perfect. They always, there are discrimination. There always will be maybe love or not love. So about the culture, each culture would treat the people differently. But my point here is respect each culture. Like if you see somebody, and I know, not like walking without barefooted, it's okay, respect them because their culture told them like do not wear shoes when we walk. So.
Thank you. And let's have our next question over here, please.
Hi, my name is Grace. I attend Texas A&M University, and I'm from San Antonio, Texas.
Gig 'em.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So my question for all of you guys is, given that you have experienced, world issues that can seem to be on a very overwhelming scale, how do you, as one person, handle trying to make a difference in situations that may seem like you can only do so much?
Do you want to try that, Morris? It's
Sure.
like when you can get overwhelmed with the scope of a challenge or a problem, how do you maintain your perspective and focus?
Friends, 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 friends. That's my biggest answer is when I'm overwhelmed, I call my friends, we sit, or nowadays as the world is advancing, we go virtual and we talk about it. I cannot overstate the wisdom that comes from all the people that I know. They will tell you, do not, that's a red, don't even touch that. Don't, take this route. I believe that's part of what the gentleman said. Look at your assets. Look at what you have. And for me, it's usually friends because we're dealing with humans, very complicated. And so humans will understand humans. And once we get connected into that network, we are able to put together a pool of ideas that will pull us through.
Did you have one, Hafizah?
Yes, as my friend said, yes, communication and relationship is a good point to grow up and solve the diversity. As I did, my experience, I always prefer when I have problem. I reach out to people who are professional in this situation and can help me with that. That doesn't mean just I reach out to people when I need. No, people should have always communication and relationship together. And at this time, each human is human. All the people has the same situation. But maybe today I have this problem, but you passed this problem 2 years ago or 1 week ago, and you have the good point and you can help me with that. This is a good point.
Qusay, did you have anything on that one?
Yeah, I think Morris said, I kind of a little bit disagree with him, but because he said about friends. So the age is different. So right now, probably comparison people on the 2000 or in the 90s is different friends from right now. So the friends, first you need to choose it. To like, who is your friend? You want to choose it, make sure they are supporting of you. They are really care about you. But if you have just friends take you to the party and do the crazy things, those are not friends. They don't listen to your opinion. They just want you when you are and you have energy. But they will listen to you when you have many thoughts, question, they don't. So choose your friends first. And then yes, speak to them, whatever you want to do or whatever plan you have.
So in our last question, if it's okay, we'll come over here.
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Johnson. I'm a cadet at California Maritime Academy. I'm originally from Vancouver, Washington. My question is, basically I noticed that there's a common theme of family for everyone's, or your foundations and coming up, and I'm curious as to how community has affected you outside of family, whether it's been good or bad, and how that has contributed to who you are as people from with the community support.
Who'd like to go first?
I can.
Go ahead, Morris.
Community plays, we have an African saying, it takes a whole village to raise a child. So for me, when I was growing up and I misbehaved, and I will admit I did plenty of that, my neighbor would spank me and I would not report. I would cry and probably branch off and climb a mango tree and not go to my mother because I would get a second spanking. That's the neighbors, the community looked out to each child. And whether my mom was around or not, you knew that you're going to stay in line. If they don't spank you, when she comes back, they will tell on you. And that's even worse. So for me, community helped to bring us up where there was no father, where maybe my mom was sometimes very busy. There was always an eye watching. That's for me briefly.
Hafizah, did you have anything on that? About community and its role? What do you feel good about?
Actually, yes, I'm agree with him. Crises and problems or relationship with the people and find another problem between the connection. It can help to grow up better and knowing people better. Yes, I agree with him.
Qusay, any final word on that particular question?
Same more as what he said about my community. Like, honestly, like if we misbehave here, my mom called the neighbor to come slap us because we misbehaved. This is how people do it. Like, you know, you don't get mad or, you know, and yeah, this is how we are very close to each other. And if, for example, let's say we have guests at home and my dad not at home, the neighbor will come help my mother to take care of the guest. This is how the community, how like they are bond to each other.
Very good. Well, on that note, on behalf of the panel, I want to say thank you to everybody for listening today. And I would like to encourage you, over the remaining time here, if you see any of us and have any further questions. And also, too, if it's all right, I'd like to introduce another very special person here in the audience, Leslie Beasley. She's the mother of Midshipman Kyle Beasley and Connor Beasley. And she's a dear friend, and she is a woman who has invested so much in the lives of people in so many countries. She's the founder of what was the Open Arms Shop, which was a company that she founded in Austin where they were employing refugee women from war-torn countries who were coming to the States, employing them at a living wage with family-friendly hours and all these different things to help them build lives in America. She's now the CEO of the Miracle Foundation, which is an organization that was originally founded to improve the condition of orphanages in India, and now they're a leading voice in what has basically been a pivot, where the United Nations has gone from supporting orphanages and institutionalization of children, and now there's been a sea change where they're now working toward rehoming children and getting them back into homes as the best place for them to be nurtured. So she's really the brains behind this panel concept, and when you're tracking any one of these folks down for questions, you'd be well advised to spend a minute picking Leslie's brain, because she's on a whole other level in terms of somebody who's making a difference in the world with a deep heart of compassion and wisdom as we go. So, Leslie, thank you so much for everything you've done.
Also, last thing I would like also thank Ms. Leslie, because I've been born on her shoulder all the time, and also Brother Andrew. Thank you so much for helping me.
Well, thank you so much for each offering your unique perspective. I hope everybody here today can reflect on those stories and take away some lessons on what life can be like other places and put things in perspective in order to create greater resilience in your lives. And on behalf of the Naval Academy Leadership Conference, I have a gift for each of you. Thank you so much.
I have a couple less interesting announcements. So before Stas talks about the next breakout session, after the conclusion of that breakout section, you'll have about